oriented into prayer. As I told you, this set of verses are talking about a wise person, right? It's called Sthita Prajna. If anybody has listened to Gita a little bit, everybody has heard of the word Sthita Prajna. Okay? Sthita Prajna means, we imagine this wise person as, somebody who is like, disconnected with the world or whatever. Sthita Prajna means something very simple. Okay? Prajna means knowledge. Knowledge. Right? And that knowledge is Sthita. What is Sthita? Unshakable knowledge. Right? So this is what Sthita Prajna is. Who is a wise person? His understanding or knowledge of Vedanta is unshakable. Unshakable by what? As I said, any intellectual argument that somebody brings which is counter to Vedanta, you are not afraid. A physicist comes and talks to you, a neuroscientist comes and talks to you, and you don't get shaken. And they are able to learn from you. They come to know something more than they knew already. Okay? So that is one way of defining Sthita Prajna. Well-established knowledge. It's not going to be shaken by anything. That's why you don't shy away from interactions. You don't shy away from questions. Right? The other way of defining Sthita Prajna is life brings situations. And some situations are conducive, some situations are difficult, and some situations are at times overwhelming. And if you can remain lucid, if you cannot lose your objectivity and have a certain perspective which is unshakable by external events, that is also equally what Sthita Prajna. So, Sthita Prajna has two aspects. One is what you understand, and the second is how you live your life. Okay. What you understand, what Vedanta says, is unshakable, and the second is how you live your life. How do you respond to situations, varying situations in life? When you keep the vision of Vedanta during both intellectual as well as living your life, you are Sthita Prajna. That means nothing shakes your knowledge, whether it is the events of life or it is intellectual debate with anybody. Right? So this is the person. Now, this morning, Namita said, okay, can you provide a context? What is exactly this knowledge that we are talking about? Okay, so the verses are going to talk about it, but I'm going to give you a very small presentation which becomes the basis for me to get into the verses on Sthita Prajna. Okay, so the introduction is what exactly is the vision of Vedanta. Everybody talks about Vedanta, Vedanta, Vedanta. But if I ask you what is Vedanta, what would you say? What would you say, Namaz? What is Vedanta?
It's a way of life, it's a way of vision, knowing yourself and others.
Excellent. So as she says that, knowing yourself, how much time do we spend knowing ourselves? We are so busy doing things. And all the things that we do, all the things that you learn in the school is all about what?
External knowledge.
External knowledge, right? Who gives us skills to make decisions? How do I make decisions? How do I view myself in the scheme of things? How do I respond to situations which are not conducive? According to me. Nobody teaches us that, right? So this is time for yourself. Vedanta makes you see yourself. Okay? Now, makes you see yourself in what way? Okay? So, what is the vision of Vedanta? We all are busy, as I said, according to Vedanta, in three pursuits. What are the three pursuits? Artha, Kama,
Dharma.
and Dharma. What is artha pursuit?
Money.
Money. Any artha in
Material.
Sanskrit, what is artha? Is in English, you say security. Anything to do with your securities, right? So what do you consider as source of your security?
Power, money.
Power, money. So people are busy, right? And the person who has more power, the person who has more money, according to the rules of the society that we have learned, is considered to be what?
Successful.
Exactly. Successful, high in the status, important person. So these are our natural rules. Right? Now, according to Vedanta, artha pursuit is not condemned. Please understand. Luckily, there is this vision which does not label artha pursuit as material. It says it is a legitimate pursuit. There is nothing wrong in having certain amount of comfort, certain amount of resources, right? Certain amount of success, certain amount of power. With power you can do so much. Right? You are a leader of a nation. That's power. Either you can abuse it or you can do many things with it. Right? So intrinsically, the money, according to this Vedic culture, is not something we don't label it as material. We call it Lakshmi. Lakshmi is what? Divine. Diwali time, you light up your home and you welcome Lakshmi. That is a relationship. Relationship is you welcome resources. There is nothing wrong with it. Okay? How you use your resources, what do you do with it, is showing your growth. Right? So that means instead of rejecting resources, you learn. What is the learning?
Use it and not abuse it.
Exactly. That is a learning. That shows whether you are a person who is growing or not. Right? Then you have the second pursuit, which is what? Kama. Kama is pleasures. What is this pleasure pursuit?
Love, marriage, relationships, household.
Excellent. Right? That relationship is a big source of pleasure. Then all the entertainment. And entertainment industry is multi-billion-dollar industry. Keep you entertained. Right? With new products, with new services, with new things to do, new vacations. It's constantly making you interested and engaged in many, many different things which you think will bring about pleasure. Is that wrong? That is also not wrong. Why?
Pursuing happiness.
Exactly. There is nothing wrong in pursuing happiness. Right? But then that's enough. Security and pleasure. This is all what everybody is doing. And there is nothing wrong with it. Then what is? Then everybody should be happy pursuing artha and kama. Where is the problem?
It's ephemeral.
Huh?
It's ephemeral.
Exactly. Right? So that means it doesn't tell you not to. Please understand, Vedanta is not rule-based. It makes you see this is how every human being is. Every human being is like that, but doing these two things, you have to ask one more question. What am I really searching for? Through these pursuit of artha and kama. What am I really looking for? Am I pursuing artha for artha's sake? Pleasures for pleasure's sake? Or I want something more? What is it that I want?
Long lasting.
Exactly. I want happiness, which is not just a permanent or which is not a temporary happiness. I want something which is lasting. Now, if I go back and look at all these different pursuits of artha and kama, and if I examine, have they really given me the lasting happiness that I am searching for, then what is the answer?
No.
So that means that what I really want in this world and what I'm doing, what?
Contrary.
It doesn't really, it's not bad. Please understand. We are not saying it is bad or it is material or you have to keep away from it. You just have to recognize a fact. The fact is, no matter how much I accumulate, no matter how much power I have, there is basic need in me to be happy. And as Shona says, not just happy, only when I'm in spa. I want to be happy even when I'm outside the spa. I want to be happy there, but I also want to be happy.
Can I ask something?
Yes.
Maybe I'm asking this out of a non-Hindu perspective. My question is, when you say that there's nothing wrong in being
Yes.
happy and it's fine, we are allowed to, there's still a sense of gray area, there's still a sense of guilt that is, okay, it's not bad, you're not. Coming from my background, you would say maybe Parsis love our life and we love to eat and we love being out there, we're known to be the jokers in the community and so on and so forth. So isn't it really important, at least I think it's really important to be generally very joyous. It's very important spiritually, I think, to be very generally joyous.
True. But the thing is, it is good to be joyous, but we don't find ourselves joyous all the time. That is a problem.
Yeah, that situation.
Right? So in so many situations, we go through a little bit of roller coasters.
That's fine, but
So
I'm questioning only the situation in terms of is it there's something wrong in it? Is a different communication from saying it's really important to be happy and to be joyous?
absolutely.
The inherent nature of our spirit.
True. That's true. But we are trying to find something, a happiness which is not dependent on external situations. Because what happens is, we are at the mercy of external situations for us to be happy. And external situations, by definition, they keep changing. Because they keep changing, and we respond to the changing situation, something makes me happy, something makes me down, because according to me, this is not the right situation. So every human being experiences a little bit of roller coaster in terms of one's emotional life. Right? And that is something that sometimes people can handle it, but a lot of times it's difficult for people to handle. Externally, everything could be fine, but what happens here is something that only you know. And that's why people come to Vedanta. If they just basically had joyous life and they had no further questions, they would be doing what they are doing. The very fact that you come to Vedanta is, deep inside, everybody knows that there maybe is something much more to life than just this pleasures. That discernment you need, right? And that's why you come. So that's a good question, right? So therefore, Artha and Kama are fine. The only thing is, what I'm searching for through them is not what they are capable of doing. Then the whole world is also, when you talk about, is Artha and Kama the only pursuit? There is a third pursuit. What?
Dharma.
Dharma. Right? Dharma means there is something, that's why Nawaz was talking that in school they were taught maybe some ethics or whatever. Right? Every human being also has some sense of what my responsibilities, what should I do, how can I grow to be a human being who's responsible, who's doing things, how do I have resources, I have power, but either I can abuse the power or I can use it to help other people. So how do I live better with all the different privileges that I have, right? Or even if I don't have that privileges, how do I keep my life in perspective? Because if I don't have the Artha and Kama, I can be what? Extremely angry, extremely what? Frustrated human being. But I don't want to be, right? So that means there is some aspect of us, that growth, that we are all looking for to live with a proper perspective. Right? Which alone, right? How to live with a sense of responsibility, with a sense of, seeing my roles accurately. So this particular pursuit is that of Dharma. We will see in detail what is Dharma. And in fact, if you really think about the whole world, our human pursuit ends at Dharma. Anywhere you go in the world, what is seen to be the end, in addition to Adhyatma, what is the thing? That you do things reasonably, right? You don't hurt anybody, you don't say lies, you don't cheat. This is considered to be the end. So for most of the humanity, the end is Artha Dharma, but most importantly Artha Kama, but most importantly what? Dharma. Dharma means do the right thing. And people think that when I do the right thing, that is an end in itself. But according to Vedanta, this is not the end. Dharma is a beginning. Even if I am sensitive to different people and their needs, and I try my best not to hurt anyone, not to cheat anybody, use my resources well, do you think that it gives me lasting happiness that I'm searching? No. Why doesn't it give me the lasting happiness that I'm searching? And that is because what? There is one thing which is missing in my life, which is self-inquiry. The self-inquiry. Who is this person who is trying to be nice, engage in the world, get fulfillment? What is the nature of that person? What Vedanta says is, as long as you don't actively think about the nature of I, as Neema says, what is your true nature? Okay? What is the nature of the universe? What is your relationship with the cause of the universe? These are such fundamental questions. If they are not answered, you live your life maybe healthy, but not with the full understanding, full awareness. Okay? So that means Vedanta helps us to think about one essential question, and that question is that of moksha. It has the fourth pursuit. In addition to Artha, Kama and Dharma, there is a fourth pursuit. And the fourth pursuit is knowing your true nature. Because once you know your true nature, everything else falls in place. Your Artha falls in place, your Kama falls in place, your Dharma falls in place. The whole understanding that you have is complete. Until you have not understood yourself, everything is scattered. You find meanings, you find enjoyment, you find happiness, but it's all not totally, put in its own perspective. So that means the pursuit of moksha is one very essential pursuit where you know yourself, in light of which every other pursuit is put in place. And this is why people call India a spiritual country. Why? Because for most of the humanity, the culmination of human purpose is served when you are following Dharma. That you are doing right things, you are a good human being, you don't step on anybody's toes. That is the end. According to Vedanta, that is a starting point. You need to know yourself. Without that, everything else is incomplete. So that is the pursuit of moksha. Okay? Now, I want freedom. I need to know myself. What do I do? What do I do for this moksha now? Moksha has become the pursuit. What do I do?
Bhakti.
Okay, yeah. So now, as Madhumani or Kamala, everybody is searching for something more, and as a result, they try out many things. Everybody's journey is starts with some book, some teacher, some practice, some little thing here and there, and then over the years you come to Vedanta. So that means when you consider yourself spiritual, when you are looking for solutions, what is the choice? So many different things that you have, right, that you can do for your spiritual growth. So now the whole world has become spiritual marketplace. Just as you choose different, Nawaz was saying she went to Shiva Som and now she's here, So everybody, and that's lovely, and I'm so happy she said this is a nice place and, so that I'm very happy. But what I'm saying is that just as you have to choose between spas, you also have to choose between spiritual teachings. Because each one is presenting something and each one is offering a solution. Now, the question is, who will you listen to and why? Who will you listen to and why? Why? Why should you come to Vedanta and why should you even come to me? Why? Because you have n number of choices. Today, you could have selected to be at home or go to so many different programs and retreats are being offered. You could have gone anywhere. What makes you come here as opposed to somewhere else? Okay? So this is where, within so-called spiritual world, you have number of options. And you have infinite choices. How do you choose this? Vedanta itself has an answer. Makes you think about things. It says there are two possibilities. One is, right now, you are searching for lasting happiness. Behind that search, what is the conclusion? Yeah. So that means the goal of wonderful, right? So what Neeta is saying is that I'm looking for something where by finding it, I will always be happy. Behind that search, what is the assumption?
After. I'll be happy after.
Exactly. As Preeti says, that I will be happy after, so right now I am incomplete. That is the conclusion.
I am incomplete.
Incomplete. And by doing something or by achieving something, I will be complete. Right? This is the assumption that we all have. Now, what Vedanta says is, imagine a scenario that you are essentially incomplete. If you are essentially incomplete, any small gain or loss within time and space, is it going to make you complete? No. If salt is salty, if it is intrinsic nature of salt is salty, can you change it? You can't. If the intrinsic nature of sugar is sweet, can you change it? You can add different ingredients to reduce the sweetness for you, but you can't change its nature. So according to Vedanta, if you are basically incomplete, if this is the starting point and if this is the truth about you, nothing can fix it, including Vedanta.
But isn't it good to be incomplete?
So no, because everybody is wanting that completion.
But
So
then you don't value the good that you have within
So,
you.
see, right now everybody is feeling incomplete is a fact, right? And everybody is searching for that completion. So what we are looking for is what could be the solution.
Could you be complete and still searching and still feeling
So
what
that
more
means,
is there?
yeah, exactly. So that means that the very fact that you are searching means that that completion is not totally complete.
So when you say complete, you don't mean unhappy. You just mean incomplete.
Yeah,
but still happy.
incomplete. Exactly. Right? You can be in a state of happiness, but there's still something that you feel, everything. Exactly.
And it's ever constant. That happens and will be constant if you're in that stage.
Yes, exactly. Right? So therefore, the only solution, look at the logic of Vedanta, right? Because now you have to choose from all the different spiritual solutions that are available. What Vedanta says is, if any spiritual solution starts by telling you, right now you're incomplete, and by following me, you will be complete. By doing this, you will be complete. It is a logical error. It's a logical error because if intrinsically your nature is incompleteness, there is no fix. There is no fix. Right? The only possible logical solution to your search is that you are already free.
Already free.
Already free. This is the vision of Vedanta. The question is, if I'm already free, why am I searching?
I'm not aware that I'm free.
Exactly. So that means I have concluded some facts about me and I take it as reality. And as long as I continue to live my life thinking that that is the reality about me, there is no solution. Okay? So that means the pursuit of moksha begins with what? The vision of Vedanta. In its own vision, you are already free. I am Atma Brahma. This is the vision of Vedanta.
But what do you mean when you say
So I will explain.
moksha?
I will explain. But you just need to understand the framework within which we are talking about, right? So the pursuit of moksha is then, what are the two dimensions of the pursuit? The first dimension of the pursuit is, if I am what Vedanta says is you are free. And how do I see myself? I see myself as limited, lacking something or the other. Right? Helpless at times.
When you say free, can you define that? Oh.
Right? So that means the pursuit of Vedanta is to know your nature as already what you want to be. You're not creating anything. You're just knowing yourself accurately, without any mistake. You're not superimposing your limitation on your true nature. This is the job of Vedanta.
Ignorant about
Exactly. So the first job of Vedanta is to remove your ignorance about your true nature. That aspect of Vedanta is what we call Brahma Vidya. Brahma Vidya is looking at my true nature and seeing I'm not this limited human being who is highly limited in time and space.
So you're recognizing your potential.
Not potential, just no, not potential. Potential exists at a different level. Okay? So here it is another level. Right? So I will explain, the whole thing is coming. But just understand the framework of Vedanta, because it's very important to recognize what you are doing in this class. Otherwise it remains vague for people who have listened to Vedanta for years. They don't know what they are doing. Okay? The premise of Vedanta is you are already what you want to be. And the whole job of Vedanta is to make you own up to that reality of yourself and remove all your ignorance, all your confusion, all your vagueness about it. Okay? So this part of pursuit is what we call Brahma Vidya. Okay? Now, there is another pursuit which is also together there, which is what we call Yoga Shastra. What is Yoga Shastra? If I am ignorant about my fullness, and if I am already full, the only thing I have to do is to know it. What else is there to do? What else is there to do?
An active practice toward it.
Excellent.
Unlearn what you
So,
already.
exactly. Right? You have lived your life with certain orientation. And that orientation, inbuilt in that orientation is some mistake that you make about who you are. And as a result of that orientation, you engage in the world and you further strengthen that distorted vision of yourself. So that means it's not just a simple mistake, it's a compounded mistake. Because every situation that comes in front of you leaves its impression on you. And you give some meaning to that situation. And that meaning, what is it going to be when things don't happen your way? One thing is a fact of things not happening your way. The second is what you tell yourself when things don't happen your way. What do you tell yourself?
You're a failure.
Exactly. Right? So
Result
that
of an
means,
action.
sorry?
Result of an action.
When things don't happen your way, then the results are not in your keeping with what you want. So that means not only you make some fundamental mistake about your true nature, but you superimpose it with another idea of I'm a failure. You understand how complex life becomes? Then you superimpose it further with what?
Blaming others.
Sense of lack.
Blaming others. Oh, the world is so bad. This person is really mean. Okay? So your basic non-understanding of your true nature, which is basic to us all, it gets further compounded with all the other messages that you have given. And those messages have given you the personality, different personalities that we all enjoy. That's why each one has gone through life, and many. I ask this question to everyone in my class: how many percent of things happen your way from the time of your birth till now?
Very little, very few.
Yeah. So the highest I got is about 50%. 50% of the things happen my way.
50% no chance, because it desires a billions.
Exactly. That's true. Right? But it's good that they feel like that. So luckily, in reality it may not be true. But at least it's an optimistic, because I have had, exactly. So that means all those 50%, it includes when you were a child, you wanted a toy, and that toy was taken away from you because it was your study time. It also includes simple events like that. Because that child told oneself something at that time. Because for that time, for that child, that toy was so important, and when it was taken away, the child was shattered. It can be as trivial as that, but what is the problem? It leaves an impression. 2-3 times it happens, something is taken away, then you develop an orientation of deprivation. Every action is looked from that sense of, oh, I'm deprived of something. Okay? So that means this confusion that you have about your true nature gets further and further compounded with all the different messages that you keep giving yourself. So that means now imagine, so this is a well-entrenched opinion and orientation that you have towards yourself and towards life. Now Vedanta comes and tells you you're free, and I'll show you how. Right? Now, can these two things coexist in the mind at the same time? On one hand you feel I'm a victim of circumstances. On one hand you feel I'm a failure. This is your deep feeling. And then Vedanta shows you are, let's say I'm going to show you, you're the whole. You think that you can totally give up your ideas, the previous ideas. If you're very smart, maybe, right? But it requires, because what happens is there is one mind which you use in Vedanta classroom to understand things. There is the mind, as you will see, has many different aspects. When situations arise, at times you get totally carried away by your mechanical ways of being. Right? So that means one thing is what you understand, the other one is how you feel and how you behave. So that means that connect between what you have re-understood about yourself and how you really feel is not yet complete.
But you slowly learn to change the habit.
Exactly.
And the mechanical
So-
mind becomes more aligned to the...
Excellent, right? So this process, that how you slowly change in your day-to-day living and your behavior, where your mind becomes aligned to this new understanding that you have about yourself, this particular pursuit is called Yoga Shastra. So Vedanta has two aspects. One is Brahma Vidya, the other one is Yoga Shastra. Okay. One is re-understanding my true nature. The second is, how do I, as Namita very rightly puts it, right? How do I slowly, right, begin to live in this world with that vision? And break free from my habitual ways of looking at things. My habitual orientations with which I live my life. So that means Vedanta pursuit is twofold. Brahma Vidya and Yoga Shastra. Brahma Vidya is to do with re-understanding my true nature. Yoga Shastra has to do with changing my behaviors, changing my habitual way of doing things differently so I can own up to that vision. Okay? So therefore, now Karma Yoga is that practice which will enable you to live that vision. Okay? So you must understand Karma Yoga. How do you place Karma Yoga? That you continue to do what you have to do. But now you are going to do things differently. You are going to tell yourself different things and not be slave of past habits. Right? So this, let's do the next slide. Now, there are 4 verses of Bhagavad Gita which make you see what exactly is Karma Yoga. Okay? So the first verse is, I'm going to chant it and then I'm going to explain the meaning. It says, Vyavasayatmika buddhi ekena purundana bahushabhakyanantashta buddhayo vyavasayina. So, what is Vyavasayatmika buddhi? It means Nishchayatmika buddhi. Nishchayatmika buddhi means I know what is it that I am looking for in my life. Right? So, once I am clear that it is that self-knowledge which is going to make all the difference. It is going to bring my pursuit of Artha, Dharma and Kama in perspective. But I need to know that knowledge, knowing which everything else will be what? Put in its own place. So that is what we call Brahma Vidya. And that is knowing my fullness. How? Vedanta doesn't just come by making a statement, you are the full, you are the whole. It unfolds very sophisticatedly how you are. Right? So knowing this, and then what is karma meant for? Is karma helping you to know what is your true nature is already the fact that you are free. How does karma doing an action help?
Prepare the mind.
Exactly. Doing karma, generally what happens is when I engage in the world, when things don't happen my way, it's my test. It's my test to see how objective and lucid I am. Before, what happened? Situations brought ups and downs in me. There were times that I was very deeply hurt. There is no exception to it. There were times that I was happy. There were times that I was sad. Okay? All these impressions that I have, they are my orientations and they are going to carry forward. They are going to carry forward in my assessing next situation that comes to me. How much can I continue to act, and when situations arise, I free myself from those habitual responses which are coming from either anger or sadness or deep sense of inadequacy. how much am I going to free myself from that? That means living an active life gives me an opportunity to examine. How am I looking at situations, and if there is need for correction, then I correct it. So that is what we call the place of karma. I correct it so that I break free from my own shackles. Right? So this is the first understanding. Karma is meant for preparing myself for the knowledge and making me free from my past behaviors and my past orientations. That is what we call karma yoga, right? And the first is what we call Brahma Vidya. So Brahma Vidya is actively engaging with Bhagavad Gita and Upanishads to understand my true nature. Okay? So this is the verse, the next verse. The next verse is now said, go over there. Okay. Now the second verse of Gita, which talks about, now the question is, if I were to use karma for reorienting my life, how do I do it? How do I do it? It's easy to say, I'm going to now use karma for preparing myself for knowledge, but how am I going to use karma for preparing myself for knowledge?
Attitude will change.
Being aware.
Exactly. Attitude changes, you are aware of what? Of your own actions, in what way? Okay. So here,
What happens?
okay. So now,
Reaction to reaction.
right? This is all very good. I can always sit and give you a big lecture on, the things will happen, and you have to try your best, and give the whole thing, and use your skills, and I can tell you everything on this world, all these advices. Right? But Lord Krishna is not playing a role of an advisor. He is playing a role of a teacher. He is not giving you an advice, and thank God for that. Because everybody knows how you should be and how you should not be, and all that everybody knows. It's a teaching for mediocre mind. Right? Well, Lord Krishna wants you to understand something very fundamental to actions and result. And this verse talks about that. Okay? This is one of the most beautiful and the most common and more well-known verse of the Gita, which is at times not accurately understood. Okay? This verse says, Dharma Beautiful verse. Okay? Unfortunately, if you look at the translations of this verse, people will make it into an advice. Do your actions and what? Forget about the result. And we think, yeah, that's true. Why do we think, yeah, that's true? Because as Namita was saying, that when things don't happen my way, then what? I give myself a message, I'm a failure. Now imagine, I didn't have a way. I didn't have any agenda. I didn't want anything. Then whatever comes, I will not label myself as a failure. So it seems like a simple solution. But actually, it's a highly impractical solution. Why? Because imagine a world where you just do things and you have no result in mind. Imagine, stop and imagine a world where you have no goals, you are not looking for anything, you are just doing things. You come here all the way, make so much effort, and you have zero goal in mind. And you go back and you have to do things and you have zero goal in mind. Is life possible like that?
Because I think it means more of an even-handedness, that you don't get very upset, very elated about a good result, or very depressed about it.
So that's then again Namaza becomes an advice. Everybody wants to become somebody who's able to take the results, but how? Right?
But I think it is possible because you get more engaged with the process.
Exactly.
Because even coming here, I didn't have a goal genuinely.
Yeah.
I was partly happy to hang out with my friends, partly like looking for something amazing, partly just enjoying the weather.
That's true.
But it was like...
But when you go back, now let's say here you just came with no real goal. But now Namita organizes Lit Fest. Right? And then thousands of people are going to come for Times of India Lit Fest. And she says, I have no goal. And whatever happens, she will be kicked out the next time.
I promise you we work like that, my colleague and I.
But
and it all happens accidentally, fat, it all comes together.
But the thing is, some amount of, strategic thinking has to be there, obviously. Right? I mean, the smaller processes may just happen, but you need to have some goal in mind. You can't live a life with no goals.
It gives you direction.
Exactly. Right? So therefore, it is not an advice of Lord Krishna, thank God, to tell you to do things without expecting a result. In fact, he says the very intrinsic part of doing an action is what? Result. It says, prayojanam vina mandaha api na pravartate. Without some result in mind, even a dull-witted person will not engage in an action. All of us do something for something. You can't have goalless life, totally goalless life. You would be like just doing whatever. Right? Zombie. Right? So therefore, it is not giving you an advice, thank God, to remove all the goals. What he is doing is showing you a statement of fact. It's not an advice. This verse is not an advice. It is a statement of fact. It says, Karmani eva adhikaraha te. Adhikaraha means choice, right, eligibility. You have a choice over actions. Fact. How do I know that I have choice over actions? I can say, I can lift this glass. This is what we call kartum shakyam. I can keep this glass where it is, akartum shakyam, and I can drink water from this glass. This is what we call, right? This is what we call free will, a choice. A choice that means I have a free will and I can exercise that free will to do what I want. I can do it, I need not do it, and I can do things differently. This is a choice that I have, and I have to exercise that choice. The life is all about exercising the choice wisely. Okay? But when it comes to result, which is, imagine I tilt this glass enough, and then I want the water to go up. Do I have a choice over the result of the action? I have a choice not to turn it. That's where I exercise my choice. Having exercised that choice, right, when the result comes, if I decide to tilt it a little bit more, do I have a choice as to the direction in which the water travels? Can I tell the water, one day I want you to go up, next day I want you to travel in this direction, and third day I want you to travel diagonally? Do I have a choice? The results are what? I don't have a choice with result. Ma aleshu tadachi. My choice ends with my actions. The results are not in my hand. If the results were in your hand, there would never be anything called failure. Everybody would, to my question, how many percentage of things happened your way, everybody's answer would be what? 100%. There is no Gita. Right?
Question is, what is your way?
Yeah.
That's
Your
the
way
thing.
is what you choose, your free will. Here I have a free will. Here I have a free will. I can hold it, I can keep it there, or I can give it to you. This is my free will.
No, my
But
point is that suppose
once-
you say that something hasn't happened your way according to what you think.
Exactly.
But actually
Absolutely.
there is a larger way, and what you think hasn't happened your way
True.
is happening for another reason.
That may be true, but you have to live your life with, that is a different way of thinking. But the reality is, every human being does expect something or the other, right? And whatever that person expects, then when things don't happen your way, this is one of the ways you tell yourself, you see what I mean, to deal with it. You have different ways of dealing with it, and
Rationalize.
this is rationalize it, right? But the fact the fact remains that things have not happened your way. So one way you tell yourself, but in the bigger picture, this could be the right thing, right? That is how you rationalize it to deal with it later. Exactly.
Rationalize with the larger picture.
Right?
This is what we get.
Yes.
Inevitably fall on the thing.
Exactly.
So we know the, what do you say?
So that means wonderful, right? So now, why she says she knows that it will fall down. Why does she know it?
Because
From the action, whatever.
Exactly, right? So now, this is exactly what Lord Krishna is saying. What he's saying is, you have a choice and you use your free will to choose actions, right? And the results you don't control. Why don't you control? Because exactly, you know what, that there is a law of gravity which is what, going to take care of the result, right? Now in this case, it is clear to us. So therefore, I am not foolish enough to sit and cry when the water doesn't go up and say life is unfair because I so much want it to go up and it's going down and I'm a failure. You tell yourself that. You don't tell yourself that, and you in fact learn to work with laws of gravity. In your actions, you incorporate the fact that the laws of gravity are there, and you incorporate that knowledge of that law in your actions. This is what we call smart living. Smart living is where you have no control and you have an illusion of control, then you are resisting the laws.
It's tailwind.
Sorry?
Tailwind.
Yeah, exactly. Right? But the minute you understand that I don't control, but I don't control doesn't mean things are random. Random.
They're happening as per the different laws of the
Exactly.
which are already in place.
Exactly. Right?
The laws of
Think-
nature.
Absolutely. When you understand that things happen according to much bigger laws of the nature, then you don't over-assume the responsibility for what you initially called the failure. Now what happens?
You relinquish your...
Exactly. You understand that there are bigger laws at play which determine the result of the action. Where is your faculty of choice, where do you operate your faculty of choice?
With the
In
limited
actions.
With a limited amount of
With
power.
that limited amount of power that you have over your actions.
Consciously use the free will.
Consciously use the free will to live a most proactive life. And don't take on the burden on yourself when things don't happen your way. Don't tell yourself I'm a failure, because actually there is a whole big law which is taking care of the result. It takes into account many different factors to give you what is needed for you at that given point in time.
This is where the law of karma comes.
This is where that whole law of how it comes shown, right? But this, imagine if you really understood this verse. He says, if you really understood this verse, what will happen? Ma karma kalaketur bhuhu mate sammods akarmani. Okay? So that means you will not take on the unnecessary burden for things which did not happen your way by telling yourself self-defeating stories. What will you understand? As Tushar says, you try to see what are the laws at play and try to align your life with those laws. See how they work. Nobody can say, oh, I don't care about the laws of gravity. I will say, okay, if you don't care about laws of gravity, you just walk here. And you just keep walking straight even when there is wall. What will happen? You will fall. Intelligent living is to recognize that there is a law and align your life. If you recognize it, you can very much use that law of gravity to what? Make a space travel. That is intelligent living. Understand how the world operates and align yourself with it. Otherwise, you are on a trip.
So how do you know what these laws are?
Yeah, so I will talk about it. Wonderful. How do you know which laws? Here it is gravity, it's easy. What are the other laws? Is the next question, right? This verse only talks about the fact that what I can choose and what I cannot choose. What I have a choice over is my actions. What I don't have a choice over is the result. The results are taken care of by the laws, which are much bigger than me. Right? But because the laws take care of the result of the action, can I say I don't want to do anything? No. Right? Mate sangot swakarmani. Mate sangot, the previous one, mate sangot. Just because the results are taken care of by the laws, you can't say I don't want to do anything. Use your free will to engage in the world as proactively as you can. Right? Now, the next question is, if I have a free will, with reference to actions, how do I use my free will wisely? Which are the laws that I need to know about when I use my free will? That is Namita's question. What should I know about? It's not only sufficient to know about gravity, right? So, there is, among all the different laws that exist in this world, there is one critical law, which is what we call law of Dharma. When you have to make a choice of action, you have to incorporate Dharma, law of Dharma in your decision making. So, the next verse, it says, Tasma yogaya yujasva yogaha karmasu kaushala. When you have a choice, is your actions. Now, the next question is, how do I use that faculty of choice wisely and not waste it away? So, this verse says, use that discretion. And what is that discretion? What should I incorporate in my decision making? So that is talked about in the next slide. I'm going to chant this line. Tasma using your discretion when you use action. What does it mean is explained in the next slide. Okay. There are 3 things that you have to keep in mind when you make a choice. The first thing is what Vedanta says is samanya dharma, ethics. Okay. What does ethics mean? The whole world talks about ethics, right? When we give conferences in Germany, in France, it's not that only Hindus talk about ethics, right? All these Western philosophers, everybody has certain vision of ethics. So they ask us, how is it, the way you talk about ethics in Vedanta, how does it differ from, let's say, see Plato or Aristotle or whoever, any religion, anything? How is it different? Is it different? So,
Things the same, universal.
okay. So, there is an essential difference that you must understand. The essential difference is that all these ethics that they talk about, they do a wonderful job, right? But they see it as a responsibility of a human being. How can I live better? How can I engage in this world in a more responsible way? In Vedanta Shastra, it is presented as the law. It is like gravity. Law of Dharma. It is something which exists in the universe. Exactly. Law of Dharma exists in the universe, so therefore every child, regardless of gender, religion, the place of birth, knows, I don't want to be hurt, I don't want to be cheated, I don't want to be lied to, and others don't want the same. You don't need to teach in that sense, because human mind comes with that inbuilt understanding. Now, the neurosciences confirm this point of view. What neuroscientists talk about is what we call mirror neurons. There are mirror neurons. Generally, your mind is equipped to, if let's say you have physical pain. How do you come to know that you have physical pain? The message travels and it goes here and this pain is reported. Right? Now imagine that she has hurt her hand. It's my cells are not sending a message to neurons, to my neurons, right? But I still can understand that she is in pain. Why? Because there are mirror neurons, which makes me recognize that, hey, this process that happens to me, when that happens there is pain. So that means you are equipped to pick up the pain of others. Nobody has to teach you that. It is inbuilt. Right? And this is what Vedanta says. Ethics is a law. And just because it is a law, every human brain comes with the understanding of that existence of that law. That's why you don't need to be a Vedantin to incorporate Dharma in your decision making, because you know it. Then why do you need Vedanta? You need Vedanta because sometimes we find that in our decision making, we don't incorporate Samanya Dharma. In spite of knowing, we don't incorporate. I know somebody may be hurt by my action. I know that when I go and tell a lie about my colleague to get a promotion, I know that I'm hurting somebody. And I still do it. It's not that I don't know. That's why you are, next time that colleague comes to you, you have this little, did he find out, you have this issue. So that means there is something in me which makes me decide things where I don't incorporate this samanya dharma in my decision making in spite of knowing it.
Personal.
It's a misalignment
Exactly. It is a misalignment.
with your
It's a misalignment.
true nature and your external nature.
Exactly. Right? Absolutely. So that means that there is one thing which I innately understand, there is other thing which is my behavior, and there is no alignment.
Also, most of the time you are seeing an object, what is the end result, and you are performing it, is forgetting this part.
Exactly. Right? So that means in this case, what has happened, like as Tushar is saying, I know that I'm hurting my colleague by saying stories about my colleague to my boss. Right? I know it. And I still do it because
more importance to my
exactly. As Tushar is
personal
saying,
being.
exactly.
But it's actually not a gain because somewhere the law of nature will come.
Absolutely.
Just now I want more than the other guy.
Absolutely.
But no, that's it. It's the nature.
Exactly.
Yeah, you forget that.
You forget that.
It's actually
that
hurting
means-
yourself.
Yeah.
Whenever you hurt somebody else.
So that means what happens is, I know what I have to do, but in spite of knowing, I do something different. Why? Because any rational human being tries to assess the situation and looks for your own gain. That is a normal human being.
But most of the time we want to block, we don't want to see it, and the rest of the time we think we won't get caught. And going beyond that, we think that the laws of life is pretty else not us.
Absolutely. This is the fault in our decision.
Also, there's a very distorted social reality that we live in.
Very true, Namita.
That's the real problem.
That is-
If we all lived in a sort of a
Exactly.
ethical,
Tushar,
we live in a place where you're forced to bribe people,
Yes.
you're forced to
Videsh, we are
lie.
putting it off.
That's the really unfortunate thing. What do you do?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
But then there is
But-
something.
So you understand, so
Yeah,
that
yeah.
means you want a break.
We just don't know what case is, yeah.
Just want to work. They are like extreme, like, you know,
tasted that,
like,
and
yeah, it's like blowing.
the battery is not the
Sure, you will becoming a star.
Sorry.